Hey everybody, this is John Assaraf, CEO and founder of Praxis Now, and with me over here is my good buddy Bo Eason. Now I've got to tell you, you are in for an amazing treat, and Bo is probably somebody you've never heard of yet. However, what he does and how he does it is so impactful and so amazing when you understand that deep within you is a story and a way of sharing that story that will blow people's minds and get them to follow you, listen to you more, get them to really connect with you at the deepest level possible because of your authenticity and the value that your story brings to their lives. Now, why is that important? Well, every one of us, every day, is meeting with employees, meeting with people that we want to buy our products or services, meeting with friends, and when we connect with people and we have this influence that our story, our products, our services, anything that we're sharing has a way to impact them and they're receptive, then guess what they want to do? They want to be around us, they want to follow us, they want to be engaged in our lives and in helping them through our experiences and stories. Guess what it does for us? It enriches our lives, it gives it purpose, it gives it meaning, and then it gives you a chance to do it on a grander scale. Now, several weeks ago, Bo was a guest speaker at my Money Squared event, and I can share with you that we had several hundred people in the audience, and I don't know how many hundreds came up to me afterwards and said, "Wow, this will change my life and my business." We had doctors, lawyers, massage therapists, engineers, housewives. We had a variety of different people who were looking to make more money. And what he shared on stage on how he went, and became an NFL player, how he then left the NFL and became a playwright on New York Broadway and won amazing awards and did, I think, 1,200 consecutive plays and transformed people's lives. And now he works with CEOs, with speakers, with authors, with business owners, entrepreneurs, on really teaching them how to get in here, how to get into the heart of who you are with all of your life's trials and tribulations and all of the mess that we're going to teach you how to turn into your message so that you have more influence, more impact, and more purpose and meaning in your life. And so I've talked long enough about this, but I'm so excited because he really did some stuff at our event that I wanted to share with you. And we're also going to do something special that I've never done before, is at the end of this interview, there's an 18-minute presentation of a lot of Bo's story and how to, so you can implement some of what we're going to talk about today right away in your life. And for those of you who want to continue learning more from Bo, just figure out how to do that through the video that he teaches you and get to his website and find out more information there. So Bo, thank you, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
So listen, when we had our event, I'm telling you, people came up to me and were saying, "Wow, I can't believe how what he just talked about, his story and how he showed up and how he taught us to come from our hearts and be authentic and share our own story, transform their lives." And so I want to get you in studio to share it with the people all over the world. And so can you maybe give me a bit of your background, maybe like pre-NFL?
Okay.
Okay. And so how did you start to discover that you could achieve whatever goals you wanted to, and just share it with the world here?
I will. It all started when I was 9. I was 9 years old and I had this dream, just like every kid at 9. And so I drew up a plan. And the plan was drawn with crayon and school paper. And basically, I wanted to be the best safety in the whole world. And the plan was a 20-year plan.
What's a safety for those?
Safety is a position in American football, for those of you who don't know. It's a very specific defensive position. And at 9, I don't know how I knew that was even a position. I just saw it being played. I saw my dad watching a game and how attracted he was to the game. I'd never seen him light up like that before. So I said, whatever he's watching on the TV right there must be the most important thing in the world.
So your dad was watching a football game.
Yes.
You saw his reaction.
That's right.
And that's when you said, I want to do that?
He was watching a guy run with the football, right?
Okay.
So a safety almost never runs with the football. The offensive players run with the football. So this guy is running down the field like this, and they're showing it in slow motion. And my dad, who's a cowboy, he's a rancher, so he's not a big talker. He's not a guy who would be too loose with the words. He says this to the TV. He points at the TV and he goes, "That guy is beautiful."
Oh my.
And it was a guy, right, who was running. And that's when it happened. That's when I said, okay, if that guy's beautiful, I'm stopping that guy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. So you want to stop the guy.
I didn't want to be the guy who had the ball. I wanted to stop the guy with the ball. That was, my whole life was framed right then, because I immediately ran into my room, stole, my sister had that big box of crayons, I stole that from her, got some school paper and drew up this 20-year plan, and I figured out the position that stops that guy is safety. And I said, I'm going to be the greatest safety in the world in 20 years.
Wow. And how were you even able to, at 9 years old, think about 20 years later?
Yeah, I must have been like a sick little kid, crazy little kid. I don't know if at that moment I thought of 20 years, but it evolved into the 20 years because I just kept running the miles and following this plan. And the plan is basically a story that's made up. I mean, obviously, I wasn't very big. I was small. All my buddies were better athletes than me, and I just followed these steps, step by step. Like, I figured out that to be the best safety in the whole world, you have to be able to run backwards faster than the fastest man in the world runs forwards. So I go, okay.
You try that at home. Don't do it in your living room, though.
And I figured, I remember this going through my mind as a kid. No 9-year-old is thinking of this. They're all thinking of scoring touchdowns. They're all thinking of, being a fireman. Nobody was thinking about being the best safety. Nobody was thinking about running backwards.
Wow.
And so I just ran backwards for 20 years straight. And when I was a kid, obviously it looked pretty funny, and my buddies would laugh at me, and I go, okay, one day you're not going to laugh. And soon enough, 20 years later, they weren't laughing because, I ended up being the best safety. In 1984, I became the top safety in the National Football League.
And how long did you play professional football?
5 years in the pros. It's a young man's game, obviously. I had 7 knee surgeries while I played, several other body parts, but the knees are really, once they go, it's pretty tough to keep up that speed. And that is always the downfall of any player. It's usually an injury like that.
So you played in the NFL. You created this map. Tell me and tell everybody, what's this map or this plan that you put together? Because I want people to get, some of your embodiment of that vision, how important that was for you.
Yeah. I knew that it was just a story, this map that I had, and I just made it up as I went. And I followed this story into the physical world. So I took a dream that lived out here or in here, put it on a page, then actually physicalized it in the real world. So I knew that if I ran backwards faster than everyone else, I could be the best safety give me 20 years to do that. So I began to wake up every morning at 5 a.m. and I would just run backwards and run backwards and run backwards while everyone else was running forwards.
Wow.
Yeah. So after you do that for 20 years, guess what? No one else has ever done that.
Right.
So you get to be the best. And I go, okay, there's something to this. So after I had the 7 knee surgeries, I was being carted off the field, and it was my last game I ever played. And I was looking up into the crowd in this huge stadium in Miami, Florida, and I said to myself, I have trained myself for 20 years to be the best at one thing, and that one thing doesn't cross over very well into the rest of the world. Like, what I do best is run full speed and throw my head into other people's bodies. That's what I did best. That's what I trained myself to do. Now I can't do it anymore. It's illegal to do outside the NFL.
Right.
So I said,
unless you're a hitman.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, which I did not want to be. So I remember I thought, if I can't express myself the way that I do on a field. Because when I'm on this goes for any elite athlete, when you're on a field or a court, you are fully expressed.
Right.
And it's the only time I felt like that was okay.
And you've got to be at the top of the game as often as possible. You've got to be fully present every practice, every game, or you don't get to be at the top of the game.
No.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. So I said, man, if I can't express myself the way I'm able to do on a football field, I'm in trouble. I may go to jail. And prison was really the motivating factor. And as I'm being wheeled off of this field on this stretcher in Miami, Florida, all I could think, I swear I had this visual of a stage. It was just a flat stage. I don't have any theater background up to this point. None. I saw a stage, and I figured stages are in New York City, and if I could get on a stage and give me distance from people and let me express myself, I'm going to do the same kind of expression, and I'll be able to impact people the same way I did as an athlete, but I won't hurt anybody, and I won't have to throw my head 25 miles per hour into people. So I'll do it in a different way. I'll express myself in a different way, and that saved my life. I promise you, things would have ended bad if I wasn't able to get that, what I call TNT inside my body, out. And that's what I find really prevalent in the world, too. Look, if people had the ability to express themselves, like I'm talking about, then gangs would be a different thing.
Right.
Rapes would be different. Murder, these kinds of things that happen because we're unable to express ourselves, it turns into bad stuff. So if we have the ability to express all that's inside there, then I just see that as the key to the kingdom. Like once that's done, now there's not a room I can't go into and inspire people with my own perspective.
And your perspective was unique because you went from playing, in the NFL, which is many kids' dreams, to play professional sports, to being carted off the field, to then saying, how do I transform this into another career where I can express myself with my stories, my trials, my tribulations, my anger, my sadness, my intelligence, my stupidness, all of it. And then you transformed yourself into having a play. I mean, Hollywood, NFL, to a play on New York Broadway. I mean,
I remember the New York Times did an interview with me when the play was opening in New York City, and they said the guy was writing down the sentence, and he goes, "I've never written this sentence before, and no one will ever write it again." And it's NFL player turned Broadway playwright. And I was like, it's not a likely crossover. I swear, it was all based on that TNT that I felt inside me that I needed I needed to get out somehow. And so I wrote this play. And I'd never written anything in my life. I mean, I wasn't a good speller. I just put my heart on a page. That I knew how to do. I knew how to get this out. And that's what I did. And I let it go. I exploded it on a page.
Well, one of the things that when you were at our event, and yes, you're animated and intelligent, but what I saw was that people started to feel like it was okay to express themselves, to share with each other their stories, the things they were embarrassed about, the things they were holding them back, and I think you gave them permission to use their story as a way to connect, and as a way to relate, and as a way to say, I'm okay with this. And that created a synergy in the room, but a power that people felt that who I am is okay.
Oh, man. And not only okay, but if you and I were going into battle together, like brothers, arm in arm, going into a battle, in this world today, in this age we live in today, if we're armed with the most valuable, the most lethal asset that we could possibly have, I think it's our perspective. I think it's our personal story. And if we're able to get that out to the world and inspire the world with the miles that we've already run, because certainly people that are going to watch us on this telecast are working on or have mastered their life. Otherwise, they couldn't be on here. They just wouldn't. They wouldn't have the wherewithal to make it onto this telecast. So you've got that. You've mastered your life. Now it's the mastery of expressing that life to the world.
Sharing it.
Sharing it.
Sharing it.
That's
authentically.
Right. Oh yeah, and that's the thing that.
But sorry.
Go ahead. No.
People are so afraid of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Of being judged, of looking bad, of failing, of succeeding, and so they're protecting themselves.
Yeah.
And what I saw you do in a room, and I've heard from, I actually just had lunch, you may not know this, with a student of yours, and she's a doctor,
Yeah.
Joan, and she was like, you're transforming her life to be able to express her genius and her story with all of her idiosyncrasies and all of the stuff that she's maybe held closer to her chest before. And she says that the relationships that's creating, the sales it's creating, is second to none.
Yeah. So think about this, John. Our whole lives, including you and I, our whole lives have been spent trying to conceal that part of ourselves that we don't want anyone to see.
We're embarrassed.
Yeah, we're embarrassed, and it makes you vulnerable. But vulnerability going forward is the new power. If you can allow yourself to be vulnerable, meaning put your butt on the line, right, by sharing yourself, then you have the most power. The world is upside down how I see it. That your greatest asset is the thing that you're trying to conceal the most. You know, that's where all your gold is, where all your power is. And if people would just realize that and then express it, like put your butt on the line and express it, your life will never look the same. As far as, and I'm talking about things that we rarely talk about, like dating, like just the attraction of vulnerability, of putting yourself on the line. The attraction that brings to you, it's just, it's magnetic.
It's scary.
Yep.
For me.
Yep.
For friends of mine, for probably people watching, to divulge the stuff that I'm insecure about.
Yeah.
The stuff that I don't want you to know about me, because then you'll judge me. And if you judge me, then you might think ill of me. And if you think ill of me, then you won't think I'm this, bright shining star in the world.
Yeah.
Right? Which everybody is, by the way. And so what are some of the things that you do to help people?
Yeah.
Because you went from, again, NFL player to, award-winning player, right? The runt of the litter. Get that, by the way, if you have a chance. To really teaching people how to express themselves, as fully as ever before.
Yeah.
To gain, the respect, the adoration, the love, the sales, the business growth, whatever it is. Because the people at our event were, from every walk of life.
Yeah.
And you were teaching them how to bring that depth from within them and expose it, and they were like, wow.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that people could do to bring that out?
First thing I do when I work with people, whether if I'm working people in my 3-day event, the first day all we do is capture that story. We capture it, because when I use the word,
when you say that story, do you mean their life story or their challenges? What do you mean specifically?
A moment. I will pick a moment. So the assignment would be go something like this. I want you to think of your lowest moment in your whole life. Usually it happens between 9 and 12 for some reason. And science backs this up, but it could happen in other times. But between 9 and 12, there's a moment where you look around and there are no answers. You think your life is over. It may not seem dramatic to you because you lived it.
Right.
So our own lives are never dramatic to us because it's taken 50 years to live this life. So it's kind of mundane. But when you tell it to other people who don't know it, it's very dramatic. So, for example, your lowest moment. My lowest moment was when I was 11 years old, and I wanted to make the Little League team because my brother was on that team, and it was the first time ever me and my brother could play on the same team, and he was my hero. So I wanted to play on his team. And the coach called, and my mom came running out with the phone. And she goes, "Boys, come in. The coach is on the phone. He's going to tell you, that you made the team." So they give the phone to my brother, and my brother's looking right into my face, and his whole face just lights up. So, he must have made the team. And he goes, "Bo, coach wants to talk to you." Boom, hands me the phone. I take it, and my face just sunk because my brother's face just sunk. And because the coach said, you didn't make it. You're not on the team. Well, to you, that may not seem like dramatic to you. That was the most pain that I ever felt in my whole life.
I feel it. I feel like brother makes the I've got two boys now.
Yeah.
So I've got 15-year-old and 7-year-old, and so I could totally see that scenario.
Yeah. Most pain ever. But in the next moment, after your worst pain, after my worst pain, you either make a decision to stop. People usually quit right then. They go, okay, baseball's out, Little League's out, or they fight. And if you're on this telecast, you chose the latter. You chose to fight.
Go out there and make it happen.
Yeah, and we all face the same thing. Whether you went up to the girl at the prom and said, "Hey, would you dance with me?" and she said no, you walked away and you said, "I'm never asking a girl to dance again." Or you said, "You know what? I got to get back up on that horse."
You're gonna ask her again.
Yeah, and you fight, and you fight. So the pain that I felt at 11 and the pain that you felt between 9 and 12, whatever that moment was for you.
Or earlier or later.
Yeah, could have been.
Yeah.
You started fighting, and your life became about this climb to right that wrong, to never let that happen again. Well, for me, I wasn't a great athlete at that time, but for the next 30 years, I kept playing sports, and the only commitment was, the only reason I'm a good athlete, I was a good athlete, the only reason anybody's good at what they do is because I said, nobody's sending me home again. No one's going to cut me again. I'm going to fight hard.
So it was a pivotal moment for you.
Yes.
Well, there's some people who do that,
Yep.
and other people who actually revert back into their shell,
Yep.
Vowing never to be hurt again, so they never feel that again.
Yep.
And there's people on both ends of that spectrum,
Yep.
who are watching. And so for somebody who says, "I'm going to fight,"
Yes.
okay, they're expressing themselves and out there in battle. And for somebody who's ashamed or embarrassed or is afraid,
Right.
okay, of getting back out there again,
Yeah.
what's the what should they be doing?
They should start the climb, if they haven't already. They probably have. That's the story. Do you know that, like, if you and me were going to write a play or a movie today about Mount Everest, about climbing Mount Everest,
Yeah.
the first page of that story, the first frame of the movie, would be you and me standing at the bottom of the mountain looking up going, "Well, how are we going to do this?" That's the beginning of everybody's story. The story, once you get to the top, the last frame of the movie, once you get to the top, the movie's over. Nobody cares anymore. Nobody cares that I played in the NFL. Really, they're like, "Yeah, you played in the NFL," so a lot of people do. That's not what people care about. They care about where you started and the struggle and the climb of Mount Everest that we all have in our life. Now, whether you fought or whether you receded back, you still have to climb that mountain. That's your story. If you're able to express that climb, what that took to get to where you are today, that's what people are interested in. That's what people want to know. And I don't care what your occupation is. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Doctors use this. I work a lot in the financial services world. CEOs. People think in business school they don't teach this stuff.
Right.
They teach you, in fact, not to share yourself.
Well, they teach you strategies and tactics, but no emotion.
Right.
And this is really, all about coming from your authentic, emotional, vulnerable self.
Yes.
And being confident and certain in doing so.
Well, that's all we're interested in. Anymore in this world, we're interested in heroic acts. Now, I know you don't think of yourself as a hero, and I don't either, but these acts that you take, these decisions you make from that lowest moment, and these battles that you're up against, that's heroic to people when they hear it. So when somebody starts in a wheelchair and eventually is able to stand, that's a heroic act for everybody.
Right.
Well, the same is true for you and I. Every story is a hero's journey. We are all on this hero's journey through our lives. If we're able to express that and show people and teach people where we came from, how we did it, then they're inspired. Then they start thinking about their own lives. Because any great story, you're not thinking, like if I tell you a story, you're not thinking about me playing in the NFL, you're not thinking about my little league, you're thinking about your life.
Right.
That's what you want. You want your audience, so you and I, and everyone on this telecast has an audience.
Right.
There's people watching them. There's people waiting for them.
Whether it's your family, your friends, your coworkers, your employees,
Yep.
your environment, absolutely.
Yep. And they need to be led. And they need to be led by somebody they trust. Well, the best way to get trust and intimacy immediately is connection. And that is sharing yourself, that vulnerable side. That, look, this is where I started. I was the worst player in the world. I became the best, but I was the worst. That's what people love. People go, oh, cool, because I was the worst too.
And then how did you do it? Maybe I can glean something from that,
Right.
so that I can apply it in my life.
Right.
That's why and by the way, as Bo is talking here, I'm thinking about the neuroscience of this. What Bo's actually talking about, and he may not be aware of this, is there's something called neural resonance. And neural resonance is when I share with you some of my life's mess ups, when I share with you some of my life's embarrassments, when I share with you the times that I've failed and I felt horrific and I hurt myself and others, you see a piece of yourself in that story, and your brain fires off those same neurons, and we resonate. We resonate.
Oh, you're totally right.
Right.
You know what? You know who's great at that? Think of an action picture that you've seen lately, whether it's Tom Cruise, whoever the movie star is, in the opening frame of every action movie. Say it, and action movies cast really handsome guys and gals, right? That's who gets those parts. To make them relatable to the audience who doesn't feel like they're as attractive as this person on the screen, what does the filmmaker do in the first frame of every one of those movies? So look at your next Tom Cruise movie. The first time you see this handsome guy, you're like, man, that's Tom Cruise. I don't relate to him. He's so good looking. He's so not me. And the first thing the filmmaker does is go, bam, and hit him in the nose with a baseball bat and break his nose. And now he's got cotton sticking out of his nose, and they take his children and they kidnap his wife, and now he's just like us. Now he's got problems.
Right.
Now he's vulnerable. Now let's see who he is now.
And it's interesting, as Bo is talking, I'm thinking about what do we all do? We don't want the world to see what's happening in our backyard. We want to see our challenges, our problems, the stuff that hasn't worked or isn't working. And so we hide that.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing you say, what I saw you on stage, is that's exactly what we need to be vulnerable with in order to relate better to people, so that we all are on the same footing and we start from there and then we climb together.
That's right.
And our mutual friend Lisa, has a great saying, says, as you climb, you lift.
Ah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm hearing is as you've fallen, you start there and you share your story the way you experienced it, and you relate to people, and then you climb together.
Yeah, that's the biggest connection between us isn't our successes. It never is. It's when we're down, when we're vulnerable, when we just got smacked in the nose. That's when we connect. In embarrassing moments, when you're embarrassed or ashamed, that's when you connect the most. That's when audiences go. They go from not paying attention like this, and all of a sudden, I'll be on stage and I'll be drinking something like this, right? And they're going, "Oh, Bo's kind of cool. He's kind of handling that cup. Cool. He's okay." And then the cup drops, or I spill it down and ruin my suit. Then the audience goes like this. Oh, they go like this in their seats. They lean forward because now, let's see how he survives the next moment, because now he's like us. Now I'm with you now, because you're a human being just like me. You messed up. That's what connects us. Think about this. Think about the rest of our lives, like going forward. All the things that have caused us the most pain in our lives, that most vulnerable, most lowest moment, is our gold going forward. So the very thing that we've been trying to hide is the biggest moneymaker. It's the biggest magnet to our lives. So for the first time in our lives, we're actually get paid and have influence, and you get to lead based on all the pain that you've already incurred.
Love it.
You know?
It's how you turn your mess into your message into your money.
Exactly. I mean, isn't it? But if you think about the world, that is exactly, I know that I'm onto something, and I know that to be true.
Right.
Because I find myself, just like the rest of the culture, attracted to that vulnerability. Yet, only time people are vulnerable is when they're giving all that they got. And that's another lesson that I always train people at. I go, look around. Who's the greatest sprinter in the world? Who's the greatest CEO in the world? Who's the greatest ballet dancer in the world? And then I go, what are they all doing that they all have in common? And the one thing they all have in common is they give more of their art form, or more of themselves to their art form, or to their sport, or to their company than anyone else is doing. That's just the way it goes. The more you give of yourself, of your own story, the more magnetic you become. Because now people not only have to look at you because it's attractive, they have to follow you. And now it's your responsibility to lead them where they need to go, in the proper place. Because if you can do this, if you can share yourself, there's no place you can't go where people are going to go, hey man, what should I do next? And you're like, go here. Well, all of us would love to have that kind of influence.
Well, that gives you confidence and certainty beyond measure.
Yeah.
And when you have that confidence and certainty, then you can achieve whatever goal you want to achieve.
You're exactly right.
And I know you've taught, one of your mentors was Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Right? And he was one of the first guys that you followed that helped you become an award-winning actor.
Yeah.
Okay? One-man show.
Yeah.
Where very few people ever get to do that. And now you teach people not how to act, but you teach people how to own their life and their story and turn it into influence and into power and into congruency, where you can sell whatever idea, product, or service you have.
Yeah.
And is that something that anybody can learn? Like, what type of people have gone through your programs that who's what you teach for?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't know, entering this world, I wasn't familiar with this world. I knew about storytelling. I knew about being in front of audience after audience. So I've performed this one-man play 1,200 times. So what people gain from it is they get their own life through my story. And they'll get their life, your clients, your customers will get their life through your story. So those clients, you know what that ends up being? I get a lot of doctors, because doctors know that they're going to go out of business if they're in the information business. If they're, because somebody can go on the computer a lot cheaper and diagnose their own, whatever they have. Well, a doctor has to have narrative medicine now. He's got to tell you a story of your health and of your family's health. And that's what my doctor does. I'll never get rid of him because he tells me a story. He weaves a yarn of my life.
And as you're sitting here talking about, what I have found is the most powerful people, the most successful people, whether it's rappers, whether it's doctors, whether it's lawyers or entrepreneurs, they all have the power of story.
Yep. Oh, I work.
Right?
Yes, I work a lot in the financial services world. So in the finance world, whether they're accountants or advisors or wealth managers, they're very left brain. So they don't want to share themselves. It's the last thing that they ever think of. And they got great stories. They just don't know it. So I scratch around a little bit with them, find this great story. I go, why don't you tell that to your clients? And they go, no, that's not that. That's too personal. I go, really? I want to give my money to somebody who I'm personal with and I trust. Right. So tell the first client that you meet on Monday morning that story. And no matter what your business is, if they do that, they have immediate intimacy and trust, and now business can be done.
Oh, I love it.
That kind of influence, that you can't put a price tag on. Because then I just thought, look, I've got these certain dreams in my life. And these dreams, if I can live them in the physical world, if I can live the story out in the physical world, then I get to live a dream life. So for most of my life, when I wake up, I look at my life and I go, oh, I've been here before, because I wrote this. I created this thing, this story, that I'm now living out. Just like when I was 9, just like when I met Al Pacino and he mentored me. So it doesn't matter what your occupation is. All of us, if you think about it, are professional speakers, because we have to speak to people. Right? Yep. And whether that's on a stage or in front of camera or a presentation or in your family, giving a toast in your family dinner. We have to be able to speak. And the more we can share ourselves, all of ourselves, the more influence you have with that audience. And the more they're going to be inspired to share themselves, which is what you want.
Absolutely.
Now you got it. Now you got connection like you would have taken, remember in business people used to go, John, I'm going to work on John, and in 5 years I'm going to build up enough trust to ask John to do business with me. Well, that's out. You can have business immediately because you have intimacy immediately and trust based on giving yourself.
And that really starts with going in, learning how to tell your story in a way that's going to get other people to resonate with you. And I shared with you earlier that we're going to have a wonderful little video that Bo prepared on how do you do this. And so we're going to get more into it. And so what I want you to do is, I think it's about 18 minutes, right, Bo? There's about 18 minutes of Bo teaching you how to do this. How do you really take your own personal story? How do you take the things that maybe you're embarrassed about, maybe have held you back in the past, maybe have caused you to have fears in your own life to really move forward? And watch Bo teach you how to create the power of your own personal story so you can influence more, make more money, live that life you were meant to live, and really make the biggest difference on this planet while you're here, so your life has the biggest purpose and the biggest meaning possible for you. Bo, take it away, and you guys are going to watch 18 minutes of this.
Yeah, and I shot it. It's so funny because I'm in a theater. A theater. That's where I do my events in theaters. Because that's where I learned, and I love it because when you learn at that level, the stage, the wood on the stage and the seats have been there for 100, 200 years. All the creativity, all the stories that are soaked into that wood with blood and sweat and dust, that's where I find I'm the most creative. And I find that that's where people start to open up their stories, because so many stories came before them on that stage. So when you see the video, I'm going to be on this stage. In fact, I'll take you backstage to where nobody gets to go.
Love it.
Yeah, it's very cool. So enjoy that, and thanks for having me, man.
Awesome.
I really appreciate it.
Hey, everybody, just watch the rest of this. Bo Eason, and if this is something that you want to learn more about, Bo will share with you later on in the video where to find out more information about his upcoming programs. And what I can share with you is it will blow your mind, and you will have the most power you've ever had in your whole life. Have an amazing week and life. And remember, it's the power of your story, not the power of your intellect, but the power of your story and your emotions that will transform your life. Enjoy the rest of this amazing little program for you.
Welcome back. This is Bo Eason. I'm the founder of Personal Story Power, and I'm also the writer and the performer of the hit Broadway play, Boom! Runt of the litter. I promised you I'd take you to the bowels of the theater, and this is where we are, in the wings. And this is where all the preparation, all the real creativity takes place. The audience never gets to see this. Only us, only the true creators. I've spent most of the last 20 years in wings just like this, alone, waiting for that cue music to come up, to take the stage. Remember what Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage, we are all merely players in it. No words have been more true than that. Your office building, your home, when you're in front of a camera, when you're in front of a stage, when you're in front of the boardroom, when you're giving a presentation, that is a stage in which you must perform. You must come through for yourself. We've talked about this. Let's talk about where we began this journey. We began with a plan. We began when I was 9 years old. When I was 9 years old, I came up with a plan. I had this dream of being the best safety in the whole world. That was the dream. So I drew up a plan, a 20-year plan, and I brought it with me today. And here it is. That's the 20-year plan. That is the 20-year dream that I followed to be the best safety in the whole world. That dream came true. I became the best safety in the world in 1984. And then I had another dream, because I knew that you could only play football for so long before the injuries and the surgeries would knock you right out. So I had to find a new outlet, a new expression of who I was. And I said, I want to be the best stage performer of our time. And so I went and I seeked out the best stage performer of our time, which was Al Pacino at that time. And I said, Mr. Pacino, you got to help me. If you're the best, I want to know how to do it. And he told me how to do it. He told me who to study with. He told me who to work with. He said, only work with the best people. Because if you work with second best, it'll cost you too much money. It'll cost you too much time. You must surrender to the best person, whether it's voice, whether it's movement, whether it's acting training, whatever it is, you must surrender to number one, and that's it. And I did. 15 years later, that billboard that you're looking at right now was in the middle of Times Square. And Run to the Litter, my play, a play that I wrote, a play that I starred in, was named by the New York Times to be the most powerful play of the last decade. Now, every playwright, every writer wishes that could happen. The disadvantage that those writers have is that they're writers. They're telling the story from a distance. Remember, you and I agreed we will not tell our stories from a distance. The only reason Run to the Litter is the most powerful play of the decade is because it's personal, because it means something to me. Your personal story must mean something to you. That's the only way you can make the impact that we agreed upon. I have an event. I have an event to assure that that could happen. So if what we're talking about is true, if you can't shirk the preparation that happens in the wing, you can't let that go. If it's true, what the futurists say, that the leaders of this coming age are going to be the people who can tell the stories and impact people emotionally. If everybody's right about that, then you must be trained by the best. I'm the best. I'm the best at this. I have an event coming up. It's called the Personal Story Power Event. It is a 3-day event with me. I also assemble my team, my movement coach, my producer, the creative people behind Run to the Litter, to work on your story. Now, this is how this training breaks down. Number one, the first day, we actually capture your story. Now, 14 years ago, I captured Run to the Litter. And I captured it because I wasn't a writer, and I never had any training in writing in a sketchbook like this. The cover's coming off of this one because it's 14 years old. Let's see if you can see this. This is the first day of writing right here. See at the very top? Gosh, it's all falling apart. You see this right here? That's January 6th, 1998. That's what that says. First time I ever wrote anything in my life. Remember, you don't have to be a good writer. You just have to be able to put your ass on the line and put your heart on this page. That's what I had the ability to do. That's what I'm going to train you to do. So I took the next couple of years and I filled every one of these pages with my heart, with my blood, everything I had, and I put it in there. I'm going to have you do the same. This is mine. Every page is filled with blood and heart. This is yours. This is your personal story right here. Your pages are just not filled yet. We're going to actually fill those up. That's day one of Personal Story Power Event. Day two, we actually get on our feet. We actually physicalize this story. I bring in the greatest movement coach, performance coach in the world to work with you, to get that animal down, to get the movement, the physicality, to have you embody your story so there's no fine lines between you and your personal story. In fact, your story is expressing itself everywhere you go 24 hours a day through this instrument, which we call your body. You might not even have to say a word. It will be expressing what we need. That's day two. Day three of Personal Story Power Event is where we share, is where we learn to communicate. So we capture it, we physicalize it, and then we communicate it. And that's where you can really cash in. Because once you're able to express it, once you're able to tell that story with generosity, with physicality, then the world is your oyster. It is the key to the kingdom, your personal story. You have to get that straight in your mind. Now, what I'm going to give you with this also is the Personal Story Power Pack, just to get you started before the event. The Personal Story Power Pack is a power pack. It is this, but I'm going to give you your own. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get a DVD copy of Runt of the Litter. This is a performance from Broadway that you're going to get to see. This is what I want you to do. When you watch this, you're going to take the script, which you're also going to get in the Power Pack. This is the script of Runt of the Litter. So this is how it started. This is how it started 14 years ago with this. And this is how it ends up in a manuscript just like that. You're going to take this. You're going to put this DVD in the player. You're going to play it. You're going to look at the words in this script and you're going to go, okay, how is Bo going to turn these dead black and white words into action, into expression? How is he going to turn that into a story? And then you're going to watch it on here, live, in front of your face. Words to action in front of you. It will teach you how to do your own story exactly the same. You're also going to get a 6-CD audio set. Now this is the most intimate training that I have, because when you're doing a CD program, that microphone is in your head. So you get the most intimate, creative thoughts. It took me 14 years to make this play the way it is today. Okay? 14 years. You know, that's 10,000 hours, more than 10,000 hours. 1,200 performances. You're going to learn soup to nuts what it takes to warm up, to capture it, to create it, to perform it, to face audiences, to face the nerves that it takes, to face the critics. You're going to learn it all you're going to be inside my head in this 6-CD audio set. That all comes to you along with this, which is the magical book, which is how I create everything in my life with these sketchbooks, because these things have magic in them. Mine looks like this. Yours looks like that. And I want to see what yours looks like after a year or two. After you putting everything you got, every heartache, every piece of happiness, every joy, every piece of blood and pain in these pages. That's the Personal Story Power Pack. You're going to get that if you come to my event. You're also going to get Personal Story Training Camp, which is an online program. It's a 6-week online program. There's over 30 hours of video on there, training. There's also live stream training. There's PDF downloads. There's a section in there called Ask Bo Anything section, where you can communicate with me. Now that's a 6-week online program. I'm going to give you that for a year. Okay? So you can have that for a year. You can have access to me by asking me questions in there, and you have access to all those videos. And then you're going to come with me in a theater, just like this one we're in today, 1,100 seats. Because if you can tell a story, if you can do it in a room this vacuous, this big, then there's no room that you'll be intimidated by. You can go into any room, and I don't care who you're facing, and you'll be able to own that room and take it over. That's what we're going to do. I just trained 2 guys. They wanted me to train them in New York City, and I did. And they wanted 4 hours, so they wanted half a day. I charged them $25,000, so that they paid $25,000 to work with me for 4 hours, half a day. Full day, $50,000. These guys wanted a half. I worked with them, okay? That was 1 year ago, just about 1 year ago that I worked with them. Each of them have added $1 million to their salaries per year going forward, because they were smart anyway. They were great businessmen anyway, but they took it to the next level because they wanted to learn how to make more money, how to be better at what they did. And you know what they did? You know what I told them? Know your personal story, share it, and tell it to everybody you see. And they did. They didn't want to at first. They didn't want to. They said, no, that's not going to mean anything. I just want to show them a PowerPoint presentation. I want to show them how much money they're going to make. I said, don't do that. People don't care about that. People care about you. What cloth are you cut from? What was your family like? What was the pain that you faced? And as soon as they did that, all the money started pouring in because people got to know them. Now those guys had to pay $25,000 for half a day. You're going to spend 3 days with me for $1,997. So as a bonus, you get the 6-week training camp online. You got that for a year. You can ask me anything for a year on that site. You also get Personal Story Power Pack. So as soon as you click the button below, boom, we're sending you that online content, and we're sending you the Power Pack to get your story started before the event comes, because when you hit the stage, I want you to be running full speed. Now, when you do an event with me, this is what you're not going to get. You're not going to sit in a dead hotel ballroom with the air conditioning running. That's not what you're going to get. You are going to be in a theater, a sacred hall of creation, where there's actually the stage and the seats have this history of creativity, of blood, of sweat, of dust, of all creation, of all time. It's mythic. That's where we do our events, in theaters. Also, you're not going to see a slide in my event. Not one. You're not going to get a PowerPoint presentation where I can read you the words off of it. None of that. It's only going to be you, and it's going to be me faced with your personal story. Think of it. Close your eyes for 1 second and imagine what your life will be like if you have the ability to capture your most valuable asset and actually express it to the world, actually cashing in on the most valuable asset that you have. Now open your eyes. That's a life worth living. That's a battle worthy of a fight. My whole life, I've had 3 dreams. Only 3. That's it. 1, to be the best safety in the world. Okay? Did it. Okay? Number 2, I just wanted to be the best stage performer of our time. All right? Did it. Now, I got one left, and I'm going to share it with you. We're entering a new age, and the leader of that age, the iconic figure of that age, is going to be the person who can express him or herself, who can impact people emotionally with their story. That's going to be the iconic figure. That's what I want next. The question now is who's coming with me? There are 1.2 million high school football players. 1.2 million high school football players in the world right now. Guess what percentage of them are going to play pro football? 1.2 million. Guess what the percentage is that's going to play pro football? 0.08%. 0.08% are going to play pro football. I went to a small high school. We had 27 boys on my little high school team, farm boys. We were all buddies. We were all friends. We all grew up together. 27 of us. We were all on a team. Small high school. Guess how many of those 27 went on to play pro football based on the stats that I just told you? Guess how many out of 27? 4. 4. Blew that stat all to shit, didn't it? Guess why? Guess why? That. A plan. A story. A commitment that one kid made. And 4 guys got to play in the NFL and just killed that stat. Well, the question now, for this new dream that I have to be the iconic figure of this age, I'm going to ask you, who's coming with me? Because the odds are so much easier. There's so much more in our favor because all we have to do is know our own voice, discover it, and then express it. I grew up in a small town, farming community, 725 people. When you grow up in a community like that, you guarantee your work. Everybody in my town guarantees their work. So if you buy a tire and that tire goes flat, you take it back to the guy who sold it to you and he gives you a new one. That's what I do too. I guarantee all my work. If you're not 100% satisfied, then I give you your money back right there on the spot. I want you to have the life of your dreams. I want you to have the ability to express the miles that you've already run, if you can do it. If you can do it, you will employ yourself for the rest of your days. You will heal yourself. You will become a better parent. You will become a better partner. You will become a better business person because you're able to express exactly what you want. That's what I want to give to you. Come to Personal Story Power Event. Click the button below. We will send you immediately the Power Pack. We will send you immediately the online content for the training camp. I want to see you on a stage like this with me at Personal Story Power Event. Click the button below, and I'll see you on the stage.